It was a typical evening in the world of live television. Bright lights, cameras rolling, and a studio full of people anxiously preparing for another high-profile interview. The host, a well-known liberal commentator, was ready to sit down with none other than Elon Musk, the billionaire entrepreneur, and the mind behind companies like Tesla and SpaceX. The air was thick with anticipation. Everyone knew this interview would be anything but ordinary. Elon Musk, known for his bold ideas and controversial statements, had agreed to appear on the show, and the news had sent shockwaves through social media and news outlets. Musk had always been a figure who stirred strong emotions, whether people admired his innovations or criticized his outspoken views. Fans and critics alike were eagerly waiting to hear what he would say next. This wasn't just another interview. It was the opportunity to hear Musk's take on some of the world's most pressing issues. The host, who was known for his sharp questions and confrontational style, was no stranger to stirring the pot. His reputation for asking tough, often uncomfortable questions, especially on politically charged topics, had earned him a loyal following. But what made this interview different was the fact that it was with Musk, a man who, despite being one of the wealthiest and most influential people in the world, wasn't afraid to speak his mind and challenge the status quo. As the audience settled in, the tension in the room grew. The host knew that this was a golden opportunity to push Musk on his controversial opinions, especially on matters like climate change, government regulation, and free speech. Everyone in the studio could feel it. This was a moment that could make or break careers, and both the host and Musk understood the stakes. The moment finally arrived. The host welcomed Musk onto the stage with a handshake, and the cameras began to roll. Musk, wearing his usual calm and composed demeanor, smiled and nodded in response to the host's introductions. But there was something different about the atmosphere tonight. There was an electric energy in the air, like something big was about to happen. Everyone was on edge, expecting sparks to fly. The questions began, seemingly polite at first, but it didn't take long for the host to get to the heart of the matter. The conversation started innocently enough, with the host asking Musk about the future of electric cars and space exploration. Musk, ever the visionary, spoke passionately about his plans for a greener future and humanity's potential to become a multi-planetary species. But the host, sensing an opening, quickly shifted the topic to something more controversial. "Elon," the host asked, his tone suddenly more pointed, "you've said some pretty bold things about free speech lately, especially regarding social media platforms. How do you justify some of your comments when they clash with mainstream political views? Isn't that a little reckless?" Musk's face shifted slightly. His smile remained, but there was a slight tightening around his eyes. He had dealt with such questions many times before. This was not the first time someone had called his views on free speech into question. But this time, the host's phrasing felt sharper, almost like an accusation rather than an inquiry. Elon paused, choosing his words carefully. "I believe in the importance of free speech. It's one of the cornerstones of a free society," Musk began, his voice steady. "But that doesn't mean I agree with everything that's being said. I think we need more open dialogue, not less. That's how we make progress." The host's expression changed, as if sensing the perfect moment to strike. "But doesn't that also mean giving a platform to people who spread harmful ideas? Isn't there a responsibility that comes with that kind of freedom?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. Musk's eyes flickered, but he didn't flinch. He had anticipated this type of challenge. He had dealt with it before, and he was prepared to face it head-on. But something was different this time. The host was not letting up. He was pushing harder, testing Musk's patience, testing his boundaries. It was clear the tension was building. Both men could feel it. Musk was no stranger to tough interviews, but the way the host was framing his questions felt like an attack. The energy in the room shifted, and a subtle tension began to form. It was almost as if the audience, too, could sense that this conversation was about to take a turn. The pressure was mounting, and the audience was waiting with bated breath to see how Musk would respond. The host's next question came faster, more direct, and more personal. "But Elon, don't you think your views might be contributing to division rather than fostering meaningful debate? Many people think you're out of touch with reality. How do you respond to that?" At that moment, something inside Musk seemed to snap. The cool, collected billionaire that had entered the room was now visibly uncomfortable. His calm exterior was beginning to crack, just a little. The questions were no longer just about his views. They were questioning his character, his integrity, and his values. And that, it seemed, was something Musk could not tolerate. It was clear that the stage was set for something explosive. The air felt charged, and everyone in the room, the crew, the audience, and even the host, could feel that something was about to happen. What started as a typical interview had now become an unpredictable moment in live television, and no one knew what would come next. The questions were relentless, and Elon Musk's patience was wearing thin. The stage had been set. What would Musk do next? The tension continued to rise in the studio. The audience could feel the atmosphere shift. Elon Musk's earlier calm was slowly being replaced with a sense of frustration that was becoming harder to mask. The host, sensing the change, pushed harder. He wasn't about to let Elon Musk off the hook easily, and the room was about to witness a pivotal moment. The host leaned forward, his eyes locked on Musk, as if daring him to react. "Elon," he said, his voice dropping slightly, "you talk about progress and innovation, but you've made some very controversial moves that many people don't see as progressive. The way you've handled issues like worker conditions at Tesla, your stance on environmental policies, don't you think there's a darker side to your business empire that you're ignoring?" The words hung in the air like a challenge, and for a brief moment, it seemed like everything in the room had gone quiet. The cameras focused on Musk, his lips pressed together, as he took a deep breath. His eyes flashed, not with anger, but with something far more intense: resolve. This wasn't just another interview where he could brush off the tough questions with an articulate response. This was personal. Musk, known for his quick wit and unfiltered comments, had been pushed too far. The host had crossed a line that Musk wasn't prepared to ignore. Musk's voice was calm, but thick with tension as he responded. "I've built companies that are changing the world. I'm not perfect, but I'm doing more to help humanity than anyone else. These kinds of accusations, they're nothing but distractions. People who don't understand my work are quick to judge. But let me tell you something. If you're not willing to take risks and challenge the status quo, you'll never move the needle." For a moment, it seemed like Musk was about to shift the conversation back to a more controlled, polished tone. But the host, refusing to let up, shot back with even more force. "You talk about taking risks, Elon, but aren't those risks putting your employees and the environment in harm's way? How can you justify that?" The question hit like a punch, and the tension in the room grew palpable. Musk's expression darkened. He looked at the host, then around the studio, as if trying to decide whether it was even worth continuing this conversation. His jaw clenched, and his fists tightened, though he tried to maintain composure. And then, in a flash of emotion, Musk stood up, abruptly knocking his microphone away from his chest. His chair scraped loudly against the floor as he pushed it back and stepped toward the edge of the stage. The audience was stunned, unsure of what was happening. The host blinked in disbelief, his smug confidence now replaced by a sense of surprise. "Elon, are you really going to walk out?" he asked, his voice a mixture of disbelief and curiosity. Musk's eyes were locked on him, but there was no anger in his gaze. It was something colder: disappointment. "This is pointless," Musk said flatly, his voice low but firm. "I don't have to sit here and listen to these baseless attacks. I've had enough." With that, Musk turned his back to the host, and in a moment that would go viral, he walked off the set. The studio erupted in murmurs as the crew scrambled to react. The host, who had clearly not anticipated such an abrupt move, was left standing, microphone in hand, as the cameras panned away from the stage. In an instant, Elon Musk's walkout became one of the most talked-about moments in recent memory. The host was left speechless, unable to follow up. The audience, both in the studio and at home, could barely process what had just happened. Was this a calculated move, a dramatic exit to make a point, or was it genuine frustration? What no one could deny was the shock of it all. Elon Musk, the tech billionaire, had walked out of an interview, something rarely seen in the world of high-profile media appearances. The emotions were raw, and the stakes had never felt higher. The aftermath of this moment was going to be far-reaching. Social media exploded with reactions. Some saw it as a bold statement, a way for Musk to show the world that he wasn't going to sit and take unfair criticism. Others, however, questioned his actions, wondering if this was a sign of arrogance or an inability to handle pressure. The question on everyone's mind was simple: what led to this moment? What exactly was said that pushed Musk, usually calm and calculated, to the point of walking out of the interview? As the dust settled, people began to search for answers. The host's words lingered, and fans and critics alike were left wondering. Had the host pushed him too far, or had Musk's own ego gotten the best of him? Whatever the answer, one thing was clear: this was a turning point. Musk's walkout would go down in history as a defining moment, a moment that proved even the most powerful and influential figures had limits. The audience now wanted to know, what would Musk do next, and how would the world react to this shocking exit? The world was watching, and the story was far from over. As soon as Elon Musk walked off the set, the room buzzed with shock. The host stood there, caught off guard, while the camera crew scrambled to regain control of the broadcast. In that brief moment of chaos, the interview that was supposed to be a routine discussion had turned into a historic viral event. The immediate backlash. The studio audience was stunned into silence. The host, recovering from his shock, attempted to regain composure. He looked directly into the camera and addressed the audience, though his voice seemed shaky, betraying his uncertainty about how to handle the situation. "Well, it looks like Elon Musk has decided to leave the conversation," he said, trying to fill the void left by Musk's sudden departure. "It's a shame. We were hoping for a productive discussion." But the viewers at home had already started reacting, and their responses flooded social media almost immediately. Within seconds, Twitter and other platforms were ablaze with opinions, memes, and viral moments from the interview. Some viewers applauded Musk, calling him bold and unapologetic. They admired his decision to walk out, seeing it as a stance against unfair questioning and the mainstream media's tendency to pounce on individuals of his stature. These supporters painted Musk as someone who was unwilling to be misrepresented or manipulated for entertainment purposes. Musk is tired of being misunderstood and bullied in the media. He's a visionary, and they just don't get it. One tweet read, rallying behind Musk's dramatic exit. His fans shared memes of Musk looking like a boss, walking away from what they called a hostile interview. But there was another side to the story. Critics, including many from the media, and even some political analysts, quickly took to their platforms to express their disapproval. They saw Musk's walkout as an act of cowardice, one that showed he was unable to handle difficult questions or criticism. To them, it was a move of arrogance, not strength. Elon Musk proved today that he's not above tough questions. If he can't handle some scrutiny, what does that say about him as a leader? One journalist wrote, sparking even more debate online. News outlets from both sides of the political spectrum pounced on the situation. The incident quickly became a headline across the globe. Elon Musk walks out after host's accusations, a sign of weakness. The debate was now in full swing, with every expert trying to dissect what Musk's decision meant for his public image and his career. The public debate heats up. The walkout had divided opinions across the globe. For the next few days, everyone seemed to have something to say. Talk shows and news channels dissected the moment in minute detail. Some commentators suggested that Musk's walkout was a tactical move, a calculated decision to send a message. Perhaps he was tired of being pigeonholed and attacked by people who didn't understand his vision. By leaving the interview, he might have been trying to shift the narrative in his favor. Elon Musk isn't your typical billionaire. He's built multiple companies from scratch and revolutionized industries. He's used to going against the grain, and this could be another example of him asserting his independence, one analyst argued. On the other hand, there were those who believed that Musk's reaction was proof that he was more interested in protecting his ego than facing tough, but necessary scrutiny. Critics noted that walking out of a conversation could never be a sign of a true leader, especially when faced with uncomfortable truths. They questioned his ability to lead the innovative companies he was known for if he couldn't even endure a tough interview. Leaders must be able to take criticism and be able to handle pressure. Musk's walkout only makes him seem fragile, not infallible, said another commentator. Musk's response. What happened next? Amidst the growing debate, Musk remained silent for a while. He was known for taking to Twitter when his reputation was on the line. But this time, he took a more calculated approach. A few days later, he finally tweeted, acknowledging the interview but not apologizing. His tweet read, "Sometimes, you have to walk away from conversations that aren't going anywhere. I'll always defend free speech, but I won't stand for attacks on my character without merit. I'll be back on track with bigger plans." That tweet caused an even bigger stir. His supporters cheered his response, feeling that Musk had proven his point by not letting the interview continue. Meanwhile, his detractors saw his response as another deflection, avoiding the real issues that the host had raised. Elon's response only confirms what we already knew. He's not interested in real conversations, only in maintaining his image, one commentator said. Musk had not explained exactly what pushed him to walk out, but his absence from the public eye only fueled further speculation. Was it the combination of the host's tough questions and personal accusations? Was it the overall environment of the interview? Or was it simply a moment of raw frustration that even Musk couldn't hide? The aftershock. Impact on Musk's public image. As the week went on, the effects of Musk's walkout continued to ripple through the media landscape. In the immediate aftermath, many questioned whether this incident would damage Musk's image permanently. Would the public see him as someone who was volatile and unable to face tough questions, or would they continue to view him as a figure who was unafraid to stand his ground, even in the face of criticism? While some fans and supporters rallied behind him, defending his actions, there were subtle shifts in his public perception. Brands and investors began to take a closer look at his reputation. Business leaders and media figures weighed in with their opinions, wondering how Musk's behavior might influence his companies and relationships with other influential figures. But one thing became clear: the walkout was not just an isolated event. It marked the beginning of a new phase in Musk's public persona. Whether it was for better or worse, his sudden departure from the interview was now a key moment in his career. And as with everything Musk does, the world was left watching, waiting to see what would come next. As the tension surrounding Elon Musk's walkout continued to build, the focus shifted from the immediate reactions to what this meant for the future. While Musk's supporters continued to praise him for his bold stance against unfair media treatment, others began to question the long-term effects of this decision on his public image. The media landscape, already polarized when it came to Musk, was now divided even further. The incident had created a buzz that wouldn't soon fade. It wasn't just about an uncomfortable interview anymore. It was about Musk's larger-than-life presence and how he navigated conflicts that challenged his worldview. Some industry experts pointed out that, in the grand scheme of things, this kind of controversy could hurt Musk's long-term credibility. Investors were now paying closer attention. How would Musk handle the backlash? Would this affect the stock prices of his companies, especially Tesla, which had often been a topic of scrutiny? Many business insiders were watching closely to see how Musk would move forward. On the flip side, Musk's walkout also opened up an intriguing question about the power dynamics between media personalities and the figures they interview. The event had become a symbol of defiance. Some saw Musk as a figure who would not bow to the pressure of media sensationalism, while others saw him as a man who wasn't willing to engage in the tough conversations required for meaningful progress. Despite the differing opinions, one thing was undeniable. Musk had captured the world's attention. Social media platforms buzzed with speculation about what had really happened behind the scenes. People began to dissect the interview, scrutinizing each moment and word exchange, trying to understand what could have caused Musk to walk away. Some followers of Musk felt vindicated, believing that his exit was a triumph. Elon knows the game and doesn't play by anyone's rules, one Twitter user commented, reflecting the sentiment shared by many of Musk's loyal fans. However, there were voices of dissent, questioning his ability to lead with such a volatile and unpredictable public persona. Critics were now digging deeper into his past behavior, pointing out instances where Musk had exhibited similar impatience with the media. They wondered whether this latest incident signified a larger issue, one that could undermine his influence and leadership in the business world. The story didn't end with Musk's tweet that week. Public figures, from journalists to politicians, continued to weigh in on the walkout. Some used it as an opportunity to discuss the broader implications of media interactions with powerful individuals. Was it fair to hold people like Musk to such an intense level of scrutiny, or was this just the price of fame? Meanwhile, behind the scenes, people within Musk's circle were undoubtedly strategizing. Was this walkout part of a larger plan to shift the narrative surrounding him? Would he continue to appear in interviews, or was this a sign that he would retreat from the media spotlight? As days turned into weeks, the debate persisted, with both sides becoming entrenched in their positions. Musk's departure from the interview wasn't just about an uncomfortable exchange. It had become a case study in modern media dynamics and public relations. Could Musk use this moment to further solidify his reputation as a disruptor, or would it chip away at his carefully crafted image as a visionary? The world waited, watched, and continued to ask questions. No one could predict exactly how this would affect Musk's future endeavors, but one thing was clear. This was just the beginning of a much larger conversation. And as always, Elon Musk was at the center of it. As the days passed, the reverberations from Elon Musk's walkout began to settle into the public consciousness, yet the conversation continued to evolve. The media frenzy sparked by his sudden departure from the interview had captured the attention of millions, and the world was left asking, what now? Musk had always been a polarizing figure, but his actions in the interview had brought this into sharp focus. His decision to walk off the set was seen by some as an act of rebellion against the media's tendency to sensationalize and attack public figures. For those who viewed him as a symbol of progress and innovation, Musk's walkout was a moment of defiance, a clear message that he wasn't going to entertain any further unfair accusations or get caught in the trap of media manipulation. Despite the applause from his supporters, however, the consequences were beginning to show in ways that Musk might not have expected. The controversy surrounding the walkout had drawn attention to aspects of his personal and professional life that were not always discussed in the most favorable light. Public scrutiny, once again, was becoming a familiar companion for Musk. Investors, analysts, and even fans who were not fully invested in the drama were now starting to ask whether Musk's actions would have a more lasting impact on the companies he ran, particularly Tesla and SpaceX. The question on everyone's mind was whether a CEO known for making bold moves in the business world could maintain his credibility if he continued to react with such volatility to media challenges. Would this affect his relationships with investors, other business leaders, and even potential customers? Meanwhile, the host of the interview had also come under fire. Many began to question whether the questions had been fair or whether the interviewer had crossed a line. As the story unfolded, some viewers argued that the media's role should be one of thoughtful questioning rather than sensationalism. They contended that Musk had the right to walk out if the line of questioning became unfair or personal. This debate had started to blur the lines between what was considered appropriate in interviews and what was simply a tactic to stir controversy. For the media, Musk's walkout was the ultimate gotcha moment, a scoop that had the potential to be dissected endlessly. For Musk, it seemed to signal a growing frustration with being mischaracterized or misunderstood by those who didn't see the bigger picture. For many, the tension between the media and influential public figures, like Musk, was a reflection of the larger issues in the modern landscape. The divide between those who saw Musk's actions as justified and those who saw him as a coward was indicative of a broader cultural conversation about power, freedom of speech, and accountability. Musk's walkout had amplified these issues, and now the stakes were higher than ever. In the weeks following the incident, media outlets and commentators began to speculate about whether Musk's walkout would be remembered as a significant turning point in his career. Some felt it would be an isolated incident, a blip on the radar of his larger-than-life persona. But for others, the walkout marked the beginning of a new era in how Musk interacted with the media. Would this change his relationship with journalists forever, or would he return to interviews with a renewed sense of control? For Musk, the walkout was undoubtedly a calculated move. As someone who had often expressed dissatisfaction with how the media covered him, this was likely his way of regaining control over his narrative. While the media focused on his exit, Musk had quietly ensured that his companies, particularly Tesla, continued to make strides in innovation. The world had witnessed Musk's emotional response to the media's questions, but as the dust settled, it became clear that the real impact of the walkout would be felt in the months and years to come. As Musk's critics continued to question his ability to handle tough scrutiny, his supporters rallied behind him. For now, Musk had once again captured the world's attention, and the questions surrounding his walkout were far from over. As time passed, it became evident that Elon Musk was not simply going to fade into the background. Whether his walkout would ultimately prove to be a smart move or a costly one remained to be seen. But in typical Musk fashion, his departure from the interview was yet another chapter in the story of his unconventional, often unpredictable journey. The world would continue watching, waiting for what Musk would do next, as the questions surrounding that walkout persisted and fueled further debate. Would this moment of defiance only fuel his popularity, or would it serve as a cautionary tale about the dangers of acting impulsively in the face of criticism? Whatever the outcome, it was clear that Elon Musk's story was far from over, and the world would be watching every step of the way. As the controversy surrounding Elon Musk's walkout continued to unfold, the media's focus began to shift from just the event itself to what it revealed about the broader issues at play. Musk, a figure known for his trailblazing achievements, was now at the center of a debate about the role of public figures in the media and the expectations placed on them. The moment had caught the attention of not only his supporters and critics, but also professionals from various industries. Media analysts began to discuss the larger implications of Musk's actions. Was this a sign that the traditional media's approach to interviews with high-profile figures was outdated, or was it simply another example of a public figure unable to withstand tough questioning? Many began to question the interview format itself. Was it fair to push a guest to the edge of their tolerance? Some felt that the host, in his pursuit of a compelling story, had overstepped boundaries by targeting Musk with accusations rather than asking balanced, open-ended questions. They wondered if the lines between investigative journalism and sensationalism had become increasingly blurred in the age of social media, where drama and conflict often dominated the headlines. For Musk's supporters, the walkout became more than just an emotional moment. It was a symbol of his refusal to be manipulated by the media. Musk had often been outspoken about his dissatisfaction with mainstream media, and this was seen as his ultimate response to years of being misrepresented. His loyal followers, particularly those who admired his work with Tesla and SpaceX, rallied behind him even more after the incident. They believed that Musk's actions were a powerful statement against the media establishment, one that transcended the individual interview and addressed a much bigger issue of personal integrity and media bias. On the other hand, the critics had plenty to say as well. They suggested that Musk's decision to walk out revealed a lack of emotional maturity. They argued that if Musk truly believed in the values he espoused, He should have been willing to engage with difficult questions rather than avoid them. This view resonated with those who believe that leaders in positions of influence should be able to handle scrutiny and criticism with grace. They believe that walking out of an interview left Musk looking weak rather than powerful, and it painted him as someone unable to cope with the pressures of public life. This contrast of opinions only deepened the divide between Musk's supporters and detractors. The incident wasn't just about Musk's relationship with the media. It symbolized something much larger: the modern challenges of navigating public life in the digital age. Every word, every gesture, and every action could be dissected, debated, and amplified to an extreme. In this environment, public figures were expected to constantly maintain a carefully crafted image, but Musk had shown that he was willing to break that mold. As the fallout continued, the spotlight shifted to what Musk would do next. Would he retreat further into his private world, continuing to keep a low profile and limit his media appearances, or would he confront the criticism head-on, taking the opportunity to clarify his actions and rebuild his public image? The question loomed larger than ever. Could Musk return to the media in a way that allowed him to retain both his integrity and his influence? Behind the scenes, there was a great deal of speculation about Musk's next moves. Would he embrace a more direct, confrontational approach to the media, similar to what some other high-profile figures had done in the past? Or would he take a step back, perhaps using his influence in other ways to control the narrative without engaging in the traditional interview process at all? The fact that Musk had managed to turn the walkout into a media spectacle itself was testament to his larger-than-life persona. As his supporters cheered him on, the critics took every opportunity to dissect his actions. The debate over whether his walkout was a strategic move or a rash decision would likely continue for weeks. But one thing was certain: Musk's willingness to make such a bold move would only make his future appearances and his future decisions all the more scrutinized. Meanwhile, the business world was also paying attention. Despite the media firestorm, Musk's companies continued to perform at high levels. Tesla's stock didn't see any immediate downturn, and SpaceX's ambitious goals continued to capture public interest. Even as the controversy swirled around him, Musk's companies were still the focal point of his public profile. Musk, who had always prided himself on thinking outside the box, seemed to be making a point that his public persona could be as unpredictable as his business ventures. Just as he had disrupted the automotive industry and the space exploration field, Musk was now challenging the media's power and control over how public figures were presented to the world. His walkout wasn't just a statement to the host or the audience. It was a challenge to a media system that often sensationalized stories for the sake of profit. In Musk's eyes, the world needed to be more than just a series of media-driven spectacles. He saw himself as someone who could change not only industries, but also perceptions of power and media influence. The fallout of the walkout was just beginning. While the media frenzy around the event would eventually die down, the bigger questions surrounding it would continue to linger. Would Musk's walkout be remembered as a defining moment in the ongoing struggle between public figures and the media? Or would it ultimately be seen as a brief blip in the larger story of Elon Musk's career? For now, only time would tell. Musk had made his move, and now it was up to him and the world to decide what the future would hold. As the dust began to settle and the initial shockwave from Elon Musk's walkout started to dissipate, the world was left to reflect on the larger questions raised by the event. Was it just a moment of frustration, or did it signify a deeper shift in the way public figures interacted with the media? More importantly, what did it mean for Elon Musk and his future endeavors? Despite the intense media coverage and the polarized opinions that followed, Musk had undeniably succeeded in drawing attention to himself in a way only he could. The interview, which was supposed to be a routine discussion, had transformed into one of the most talked-about events of the year. But as time passed, it became evident that this moment would not just be a fleeting story. It was now a critical point in the ongoing narrative of Musk's career. Musk's strategic silence. In the weeks following the walkout, Musk chose not to respond further to the media frenzy. Unlike other public figures who might have rushed to clarify their actions or apologize for their behavior, Musk remained silent. His lack of response only served to fuel more speculation and discussion. Was this part of a larger strategy? Was he using his silence to assert control over the narrative, forcing the media and the public to focus on his actions rather than his words? By not offering a detailed explanation, Musk allowed the story to maintain its momentum. He understood that the media, hungry for details, would continue to spin the narrative in whatever direction they saw fit. By staying out of the fray, he ensured that the focus remained on the incident itself, rather than on what he might have said afterward. This could have been a deliberate tactic to show that he didn't need to justify his actions to anyone. A divided public image. While Musk's supporters continued to see him as a hero standing up to a media system that they perceived as biased, his critics dug in their heels. Some even suggested that Musk's walkout was a sign of weakness, not strength. They argued that no one was above difficult questions, especially someone with such a significant influence on industries like technology and space exploration. For them, Musk's behavior only confirmed that he was unwilling to accept accountability, preferring instead to retreat when the going got tough. But for many, Musk's walkout served as an affirmation of his rebellious spirit, a reminder that he would not bend to the will of the media machine. His supporters saw the walkout not as an act of cowardice, but as a powerful display of independence and a rejection of a system that they believed often misrepresented him. For them, it was a victory, proof that Musk would not allow himself to be manipulated or mischaracterized. Media reactions and the broader debate. The interview had ignited a firestorm of debate, not just about Musk, but about the role of the media itself. Many commentators reflected on the nature of modern journalism, particularly in an era where sensationalism often trumps substance. Was the media responsible for creating these kinds of moments, or was Musk simply responding to an environment he found increasingly hostile? For some, Musk's walkout raised valid concerns about how media outlets treat high-profile individuals. The line between legitimate questioning and media manipulation had become increasingly blurred. Was it possible to conduct an interview with such a high-profile figure without crossing ethical lines? And if Musk believed he was being unfairly treated, did he not have the right to remove himself from the situation? In the aftermath, many media outlets found themselves reflecting on their role in shaping public discourse. Could they continue to rely on confrontational tactics to generate buzz, or would this moment be a turning point, forcing journalists to rethink their approach to interviews with powerful figures? Musk's continued influence. Despite the ongoing debate, one thing remained clear: Elon Musk's influence had not waned. If anything, the controversy surrounding the walkout seemed to have increased his visibility. Whether the media loved him or hated him, they could not ignore him. Musk had once again proven his ability to dominate headlines and captivate the public's attention. Tesla, SpaceX, and his other ventures continued to grow, further solidifying Musk's place as one of the most influential figures of his generation. His ability to disrupt industries and push the boundaries of technology was unchanged by the media storm. If anything, his walkout served as a reminder that Musk would not let anything, media, public opinion, or criticism, derail his vision for the future. The road ahead. Looking to the future, it remained unclear how Musk would navigate the aftermath of the walkout. Would he continue to engage with the media, or would he distance himself even more? Would he use this as a springboard for a new phase in his career, where he reshaped the way public figures interacted with the media? One thing was certain: Musk's career was far from over. As always, he had shown that he was willing to take risks, to push boundaries, and to make decisions that would change the course of history, whether the public agreed with him or not. His walkout had created a pivotal moment, one that would undoubtedly be studied for years to come, not just as a singular event, but as a reflection of the changing relationship between powerful individuals and the media in the 21st century. For now, the world watched closely, waiting for the next move in the ongoing saga of Elon Musk. What would he do next? How would he continue to shape the industries he had already transformed? And most importantly, would he continue to challenge the media at every turn? As always, the world would be watching, eager to see what the unpredictable visionary would do next.